November 1923, a German housewife carries a wheelbarrow through Berlin, not filled with groceries, filled with money. 4 billion marks for a loaf of bread. But here's what history books miss. When her currency died, something else was born. Something that rewrote who held power in Germany forever. Now, when currencies vanish, societies don't collapse. They transform. And the pattern repeats with surgical precision. Welcome to the Wealth Timeline, where we uncover how money, power, and history intertwine to shape the world we live in. Today we're tracing a pattern that's reshaped civilizations from ancient Rome to modern Venezuela, revealing what actually happens when the one thing holding society together becomes worthless. Currency is a promise encoded in metal, paper, or data. For it to function, millions of strangers must believe the same fiction, that this token represents value tomorrow. But that promise has been broken more times than most realize. Between 193 and 284 CE, Rome experienced the crisis of the 3rd century. 50 emperors in 91 years, most were assassinated. The denarius, Rome's standard coin for over 400 years, collapsed from 90% silver to less than 5%, not gradually, catastrophically. In Weimar Germany, the papier mark lost 99.9% of its value in 24 months. By November 1923, $1 equaled 4.2 trillion marks. Printing presses ran on one side only to save time. Workers were paid twice daily so they could spend money before it evaporated. In Zimbabwe, between 2007 and 2009, inflation reached 89.7 sextillion %. The number is almost meaningless. What matters is this. A nation's currency became mathematically worthless while people still needed to eat. These weren't random catastrophes. They were structural collapses following identical phases. And each time, society reorganized itself according to a hidden logic. The question isn't whether currency can vanish, it's what replaces it, and who gains power when it does. Every currency collapse begins the same way. Governments face expenses they cannot cover through taxation. For Rome, it was 5,000 miles of frontier and the world's largest professional army. For Weimar, it was 132 billion gold marks in reparations, equivalent to roughly 442,000 tons of gold, more than had been mined in human history. For Zimbabwe, it was agricultural collapse combined with the Congo War. The temptation is universal. Print more currency. In 1789, revolutionary France introduced the assignat, paper money backed by confiscated church lands. The first 400 million issued in December 1789 circulated at face value. But by April 1790, they printed 800 million more, then billions. By 1796, 45 billion assignats had been issued. They traded at 0.5% of face value. In Weimar Germany, the Reichsbank's presses ran 24 hours daily by 1923. Wives met husbands at factory gates to grab money before prices doubled. Restaurant menus were updated mid-meal. A cup of coffee ordered at breakfast cost twice as much when the bill arrived. But here's the critical mechanism. Once hyperinflation starts, stopping requires measures more painful than continuing. Cutting spending means defaulting on obligations. Raising taxes in a collapsing economy is both cruel and ineffective. So governments print more, creating a feedback loop. More printing causes more inflation, which reduces tax revenue in real terms, which requires more printing. Hungary's 1946 pengo inflation rate reached 41.9 quadrillion % monthly. Prices doubled every 15 hours. And this is where the transformation begins. Because once currency becomes unreliable, society doesn't wait for government solutions. It adapts, always. The true break doesn't happen at a specific inflation rate. It happens when people stop believing tomorrow will resemble today. In Weimar Germany, summer 1923 marked the psychological fracture. Workers demanded payment in foreign currency or goods. Farmers refused to sell food for marks. Cities issued their own emergency currency, not Geld. By November, over 2,000 entities were issuing currency substitutes. The government had lost its monetary monopoly. In Rome, by the 260s CE, the economy regressed toward barter. Soldiers demanded payment in goods, salt, grain, clothing. The word salary derives from salarium, the salt ration given to legionaries. Tax collection shifted from coin to kind. Large estates became self-sufficient economic units. The Roman economy was demonetizing. Cities shrank. Long-distance trade contracted. The complex currency-mediated society of the Pax Romana was simplifying into localized, less specialized economies. Because money is what allows strangers to exchange value without trust. Remove it, and exchange must happen between people who know each other in smaller circles with simpler goods. But some people prepared, and they emerged with extraordinary power. In Weimar, those holding hard assets, land, factories, foreign currency, saw their debts evaporate while assets retained value. Hugo Stinnes, an industrialist, borrowed heavily in marks and bought real assets. By 1924, he controlled 20% of German industry. The middle class, who saved diligently in currency and bonds, were destroyed. Pensions, insurance policies, savings accounts became worthless overnight. The German Mittelstand, the backbone of social stability, was hollowed out. This wasn't visible destruction, it was invisible wealth transfer. And it created conditions historians directly link to the political extremism that followed. Because when currency vanishes, it doesn't just destroy wealth, it destroys faith in the social order itself. The pattern hasn't stopped, it's accelerated. Venezuela's bolivar lost 99.9% of its value between 2016 and 2019. Teachers earned $6 monthly. Doctors fled the country. Those with access to dollars or cryptocurrency became a new elite. Those on fixed wages fell into poverty. In Lebanon, 2023, the pound lost 98% of its value. Banks froze accounts. ATMs were raided. The economy regressed toward cash and barter. The middle class evaporated. The mechanism remains identical. Fiscal crisis, money printing, hyperinflation, social reorganization. But the speed is increasing. What took Rome decades and Weimar years now happens in months. And here's the pattern most miss. Currency collapse doesn't destroy the wealthy. It transfers wealth from savers to asset holders, from the middle to the extremes, from those who trusted the system to those who prepared for its failure. Zimbabwe officially abandoned its currency in 2009. For years, the economy ran on US dollars, South African rand, and barter. When they reintroduced the Zimbabwe dollar in 2019, inflation immediately resumed. By 2023, it exceeded 175%. Because the underlying problem was never just currency, it was trust. And once broken, trust doesn't return with new banknotes. 3 lessons from 2,000 years of currency collapse. First, currency is a social technology dependent on collective belief. When belief breaks, the technology fails instantly. Second, collapse doesn't destroy society, it reorganizes it. Complexity declines, exchange localizes, and power concentrates among those holding real assets. Third, the middle class always suffers most. They hold savings in currency, earn fixed wages, and trust institutions that fail them. The Roman Empire didn't fall in the 3rd century. It transformed into a less monetized, more localized economy that laid foundations for feudalism. Weimar Germany didn't descend into permanent chaos. It reorganized, but the reorganization created conditions for extremism. When currencies vanish, societies don't end, they reshape themselves. And the new shape often looks nothing like what came before. Because in the timeline of wealth, every collapse is also a transfer. Every crisis is someone's opportunity. And every time we say it can't happen here, history proves otherwise. If you enjoyed uncovering this hidden story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Wealth Timeline, and turn on the bell icon, because history's next secret is already unfolding.